It's April 16th at 9 a.m. We'll call the Wright County Board of Commissioners to order. We'll begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So I hope everybody has had a good time in our break from meeting as a county board meeting. We'll begin with the dispensing of the minutes from April 2nd. If everybody got a chance to review, anybody have any corrections or modifications?
No. Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion. We approve the minutes.
Second by, okay, so we have a motion by Commissioner Burrell, a second by Commissioner Potter. Any further discussion?
I just have one.
The grammar police, all right.
Very small. On page 3, introduce David Angel. It says Strobel introduced, but it should be introduced with a D. So not a big deal at all. It's just a little typo.
Okay. With that, it's the amended minutes approved from Commissioner Burrell and Commissioner Potter.
Yeah, that's fine.
All right. Being approved. Any other discussion? Hearing none. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Minutes are approved. Review for today's agenda. Any modifications or additions? Do know we have one.
I thought Bob had one too.
Oh, there's two.
I'd like to add something to the request to go to personnel. We have an employee, a former employee who'd like to come back to work, and she's asking for above 12% to return. She left the state and she's back in the state now. So I think we have an item going to personnel already on there. If we could attach a second request to hire above 12%.
So D2 consent agenda addition to refer 12% higher to personnel committee.
Correct.
Okay.
Jamie, what position was that again? Just
Social worker, I don't know what unit, I think the intake unit.
okay, just social workers, fine. Thank you.
Perfect. All right.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to petition on a renewal of a 3-2 malt liquor license. This is for Olson's Campground. There was a file that was missing, so the deadline was missed for early registration, so we need to kind of approve it today, subject to Silver Creek. But I'd like to petition renewal of a liquor license for Olson Campground.
Item F8.
That would be timed item F8.
And Mr. Chair, this isn't going to be an added item for the agenda, but just the when we get the advisory committee and our updates, we'll make have a brief conversation about the aquatic invasive species and the DNR and all that, because the repealer went into effect yesterday, and there's been some question what's going on, so I figured just a little discussion up here, and I think the public and the press would like to know where we're going on this.
Okay.
With that, Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to approve the agenda with the items that were added.
I have a motion by Commissioner Potter, a second by Commissioner Dahlin for the approval of today's agenda with the modifications. Any other further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Today's agenda is approved. The consent agenda today, would anybody like to pull something from the consent agenda for further discussion?
Mr. Chair, I just wanted to make a comment on item A, and I don't know if I need to pull it or not. I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda, but Mr. Chair, I just want to say it's sad that they couldn't get enough people to come to the Boy-Girl County Day. I think those kids really got a lot out of it, the ones that did, and I don't know if the schools didn't see the value in it or what, but hopefully they can bring that back next year. That's all.
I'll second that with that. I agree with that.
Yep.
We have a motion by Commissioner Burrell, a second by Commissioner Dahlin. As a person that over 20 plus years ago attended a County Boy Girl Day, I am also deeply saddened that it is, hopefully this isn't the new trend.
Yeah.
I think it's more important now more than ever that we get young people interested in the county and local government as well as state and federal government. So.
Yep, very true.
So with that, any other discussion regarding the consent agenda? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Today's consent agenda is approved. moving forward here. It's 9:04. We're just 2 minutes behind. We are calling up the cancel today's public hearing discussion. Do we want to just go over that real quick?
Yeah, I can speak to that, Mr. Chair. Just a comment, as you know, we had a public hearing planned for today at 10 a.m. Unfortunately, the posting deadline did not get published in time, so therefore we did not meet the requirements. Therefore, you will see that we are rescheduling it to the 30th meeting, or proposing to, at 9:30 for the same items that are listed here. So.
Perfect. Any discussion from board members? This is just an informative piece there. We just want to make sure as many people are aware of it because of the technicality that took place in not getting it in the paper as we were hoping to. So
we need a motion to reschedule that?
Yes,
we should. I'll make a motion to reschedule a public hearing for April 30th, 2019 at 9:30 a.m. in regards to adoption of 5-year capital improvement plan. For the issuance of general obligation bonds.
So we have a motion by Commissioner Dahlheiden, a second by Commissioner Husum. Any further discussion? Hearing no further discussion, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. CIP rescheduled to April 30th is approved. 9:04. This doesn't look like Greg Chrysler, but
Must be important. He's got the
he's got. I know he has.
Mr. Chair, members of the board, good morning. Standing in for Greg, not wearing a bow tie.
I was just
I don't
saying,
own one.
Don't you have to have a bow tie if you're going to stand in for Greg? We got one in the back, don't we?
Also got one, yeah.
Okay.
This is a fairly short item, asking you to adopt a resolution sponsoring the Wright County Wetland Appeal Board for membership with MCIT. The Wetland Appeal Board, of course, is kind of a hybrid thing containing members of this body and the Soil and Water Board, I believe. And in order for them to get errors and omissions insurance through MCIT, they need to be sponsored by some entity. And so Greg put together this resolution saying that, you know, Wright County would sponsor them for their membership in MCIT.
I'll move forward that resolution.
I'll second it.
We have a motion by Commissioner Burrell, a second by Commissioner Dahlheiden. I do know, Commissioner Burrell, you're probably in the same boat as me when we seen what we have to pay for insurance for this thing that maybe will meet twice a year. I'm kind of disappointed.
Right. And we don't have much choice.
We have no choice in that. Yeah.
The only thing, though, Mr. Chair, that it does, I think, cover that could be costly is if we were to vote on something in the negative and it went on to an appeal, MCIT would pick up lawyer costs. So that probably is why they have.
Why the cost is so high.
So Mr. Chair and Commissioner Burrell, the appeal could go further to the Bowser Board and we would be represented in that respect. So that would be a good thing.
And I'm guessing that's why the rate was as high as it was.
And see, and I don't like that they do that, because you have just a regular common person that does not agree with the ruling, and if the board doesn't, if it goes on to the Bowser Board, then MCIT brings in this super high-powered attorney, and that's all she does, and it's not fair to the citizens. And I talked to MCIT about it one time. I went down and met at their annual meeting down at the AMC. And some of the people actually, kind of agree, but we do it at planning and zoning too. If somebody doesn't agree with one of our planning and zoning, it goes on, and Sean, right, we have MCIT with the big high-power attorneys, and we never lose. I shouldn't say never, but but that's, I don't think that's what government's all about. I just don't agree with that philosophy, because I think it should be a more even-handed thing when it goes to the courts or to an appeal thing. So.
I agree, because it's the same mentality. You can't fight City Hall, kind of. That's
but I mean, I say, and here I am on the government side saying that, but I tell people I've been a private citizen a lot longer than I've been involved in government, and I just see the inequity. So, but it is what it is, and
Yep.
Since you guys have brought it up, how much is
$1,060 some
a year?
a year.
Well, I don't know.
I mean, when you look at the fact that it historically meets only once or twice a year, that's what seems high on it. But like you say, if it would ever go once every 4 years to an administrative at Bowser,
And
then it would seem like small amounts of money.
and that's the nature of insurance. I mean, you're ensuring that it's way cheaper than an appeal process or, so.
And I'm sure if that we go long enough with no issues that, the amount may get reduced.
Well, on the other side of it
They have no
is-
history is the issue. It's something unique in the state, what we're doing.
Absolutely. And the other side of it is, it's MCIT, so we get dividends. If the claims are low as a whole, it's a plus for us, so.
Mr. Chair, another item with this, and I thank Commissioner Burrell for bringing this up, because your average person that doesn't know the process, they get caught up in either a soil and water DNR or some issue that is not very reasonable, and they just jerk the chain because they can. This way, the citizens that go before and have these issues actually now have a voice. Being one that had to fight soil and water DNR with that, the citizens that get involved in this is a big deal to them, and there's no way they can spend $100,000 with a lawyer fighting something that the driveway issue and that one.
Yeah.
Well, things like that are just it's just beyond comprehension that they'd be jerking somebody's chain to that point.
Well, and thank you, Commissioner Potter, and then I said, this is going to be a, like you said, when because you were the swing vote to get this, and you said it's going to be a trial thing. If this doesn't bring fairness and some better decisions to the Wetland Appeals Board, we have other choices, and that is to bring it back to the county board. So I'm hoping this is going to work. I'm optimistic right now. I think we have.
I'm optimistic also.
Yeah. So anyway, that's all.
All right. So hearing no other discussion, this is a resolution. Do we have a motion and a second on that?
Yes.
Yes, we did. Okay. Is this a resolution? Commissioner Potter?
Aye.
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 Resolution passes.
Thank you.
Thanks, Brian.
Public Health, Sarah Grosich? I always say, I'm sure I always get that right.
No. Just say Sarah.
Sarah with an H.
That's the only way to spell it. So before you is a joint powers agreement that I want to thank Brian for helping with. That is all set for the 4 counties to accept the grant. In order to expend the funds, we need to have, according to Sherburne, a joint powers agreement. They signed theirs last week. It's fairly specific to the grant and the grant activities.
I'll make a motion to approve the joint powers agreement with Benton, Sherburne, and Stearns County for the Coalition Advancing of Healthy Families.
I'll second that.
All right, we have a motion by Commissioner Dahlheiden, a second by Commissioner Hewsom on the resolution for the joint powers agreement between Benton, Sherburne, and Stearns County. Any other further discussion?
Mr. Chair, if I could have Sarah just real briefly, because it's several pages long, just real briefly describe the Healthy Families. Commissioner Houston and I, that's what we sat in at AMC, wasn't it? The Healthy Families thing?
That was,
But,
Oh, so that's a different program. That's
Yeah.
Safe-
oh, okay, that was
that's Safe
different. Okay, so
Families.
maybe just
yeah,
quickly
you're
describe
thinking of
this.
Safe Families.
Safe Families, there you go, okay.
So the Joint Powers Agreement addresses Nurse Family Partnership and Healthy Families America. Those are both evidence-based home visiting programs. The grant that we received only funds evidence-based home visiting programs, so we could apply for Healthy Families America or Nurse Family Partnership or Early Head Start, which we're not
Okay,
in.
you
Early
talked
Head
about
Start.
this at the Human Services Board,
Yep.
got it, okay. Thank you.
Yes.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, this is a resolution. Commissioner Burrell?
Aye.
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 Resolution passes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Captain Hoffman, Sheriff's Office. Don't look like Captain Hoffman.
No, Captain Hoffman sends his apologies. He's unable to be here today, so he sent me, which I apologize for because I have pretty limited knowledge on what we're going to talk about. Great River Energy sent us a notice that they are deutilizing, decommissioning one of their towers, and we need to move the St. Michael Albertville fire paging equipment that's attached to that tower. We're currently working with Granite Electric to have 2 different tower sites that are available, vetted out, excuse me. If they have T1 fiber, we're talking about approximately $30,000 to get the equipment moved. If they do not have T1 fiber, we're talking $60,000 to have a microwave unit put in. Through the E911 committee, it was discussed that the 100 fund would be the place for this fund to come from. So site improvement funds. We were noticed that this has to be completed by September. So we don't have a whole lot of time available.
Mr. Chair, if I might just add to that, because this was brought up at the 911
I think at this point, we should just bring up the 911 committee minutes. Let's move them up and bring them part of this conversation, because otherwise we're going to go over it again at the end of the meeting. They all playing together. So if one of you two that were at the meeting want to kind of go through those minutes, then we can kind of combine the conversation.
If I can find them.
I think the recommendation from the 911 committee kind of plays to this item, so.
Correct, and this is coming back, identifying a potential funding source, so,
We don't want to vote on it twice.
yeah. We'll have to approve the minutes, but then we can vote on this action, so.
Mr. Chair, did you just want that part of the minutes, or you want all the 911 planning minutes?
Did you find them?
Either way, because the other part of the minutes are, most of it's all in the one item. I think there's only a small amount of it that was talked about that wasn't pertaining to this
Yeah,
item.
there was 5 items, but they...
Kind of all tied into one.
So the 911 Planning Committee met on March 21st. Members present, Commissioner Burrell, myself, Virgin, Hoffman, Hanson, Halverson, Dubois, Athman, Wilsick, Dahl, also Treichler, Lutkins, Coleman, Nivola, Peters, and Hoffman. And the 5 items were the computer-aided CAD project, the Great River Energy Plan, tower decommissioning, fire paging, siren paging, and 911 hardware refresh. Captain Hoffman started the meeting with the informational piece on the proposed Minnesota State project initiated by the ECN board, and I can't remember what ECN stands for, but they'd like to share
Emergency Communication Network.
Thank you.
Right?
They'd like to share the CAD to CAD, that's computer-aided dispatch, meaning share real-time information between the local dispatch centers. And this is costly. There's no standard software program currently. And then we also talked about the Great River Energy antenna tower to be torn down. This sends out the armor communications and also serves as a fire paging system to the local departments. Some areas that have a poor signal already are the Albertville, St. Michael, and a bit of Hanover. And we're currently working with Grant Electronics. The cost of moving the equipment is approximately $30,000. One location option for the antenna is to use the city water tower and place the antenna on top. There are 2 relay options, which are the T1 line or the microwave line for transmission. The cost is between $30,000 and $70,000, which is not currently budgeted for. Seth shared that he prefers a micro over the T1. The backup paging system in the individual fire stations need to be replaced. And if towers go down, dispatch will call the city fire chief, and he must go to the fire station, push a button to page out the firefighters. It's a very old system. Sirens are currently owned by the cities. Cokato is the only city out of 17 that has been updated. There is a cost, of course, to do this, and essentially the estimated cost is $1,000 to $2,000 per city township. We also, Captain Hoffman also introduced the E911 invoice hardware refresh. The equipment and dispatch needs to be replaced as it's over 5 years old, and it says including the computer, servers, hardware. The approximate cost is $190,000, and also to include a dispatch backup center of $90,000. So we have a little over $400,000 dedicated funds for dispatch, and we can use the 911 funds to cover the refresh and expansion. And Commissioner Burrell advised using those first, and I agreed. Captain Hoffman stated that once the antenna tower is up at the new courthouse or Justice Center, we can vacate the one at the Public Works building as well as the tower at the old courthouse. This equipment can be used for backup towers for dispatch. Captain Hoffman also advised that we have a good inventory of what equipment we have. We need a plan. It would benefit us to hire a consultant to devise a replacement schedule for equipment vendors. We don't want to have the seller vendor to tell us what we need. ANCOM and Granite City are the 2 main communication vendors in the area. I felt that it was wise to consult with a couple of companies. Captain Hoffman stated that he has names already, is ready to get some quotes. This is a separate proposal from the dispatch refresh project. We cannot use the 911 funds for that project. So Shauna recapped the meeting, and with the three key points, we need to get 2 or more quotes for equipment and consultants. We do not need to go in front of the board to proceed with the dispatch refresh project. The tower replacement information and plans need to be completed before September. GIS coordinator Alec Halverson gave us an update on the cleanup of the GIS system. It's a 5-step process. We've completed step 1, which was community validation. Step 2, which is street name validations, is in progress. The validation process is to ensure that the geographical data we have is within Wright County matches, because there was a lot of, they were finding a lot of errors in the system. And Haley DuBois stated that on January 7th, 2019, dispatch began having the ability to receive 911 text messages. So far, there have just been 4, and she feels the method takes longer to process information. There's a lot of texting back and forth. This new way of contacting 911 has not been shared on our social media pages. It is actually preferred to talk to a person, in person. The funding for the relocation of the antenna towers needs to be discussed further. Sue Regine is getting in touch with Lindsay Meyer for advisement. So, Mr. Chair, those are the minutes. There was no recommendation.
There actually should have been, though, because we did have the recommendation to go ahead with the money for the towers. I think we said we'd recommend that to the board, so.
We did say that we would recommend it. We just didn't know where it was going to come from. We knew
see.
it wasn't going to come from the sheriff's budget. So there was the after conversation in which Sue followed up with Todd and I and said the site improvement funds from Fund 100 would be the most appropriate place to have this 30 to 60,000 come once we have the final vetting from Granite Electric.
So that would actually need to come back to the board when that's in place.
Mr. Kelly.
Mr. Kelly?
We have $100,000 in site improvement fees. We're going to burn 50 to 70 of it. I mean, I know we've had some small things that have been coming out of the site improvement. I'm guessing we're probably going to be over a little bit on that line. with the rate we're
Potentially. It's hard to say. This is really a fund that is kind of set for incidences like this that are beyond our control that we need to address with a larger amount that's not typically a maintenance-related facility item. So in discussions with Sue, this was a funding source we thought would be workable.
Okay.
So I don't know if the board wants to set a not-to-exceed figure to try and put a ceiling to that, but I would like to be sure that we have ample funds available for the project.
So moving it with the microwave is going to be somewhere between 60 and 70,000 is what you're expecting it.
Correct.
Okay.
60 is, we started at 70, 60 is the most recent number we've received.
Okay.
As Granite continues to vet the sites, we started with 3 sites, we're down to 2.
And you're doing the Otsego Water Tower is what the...
So there is there's a St. Michael, Albertville Water Tower.
Okay.
And then there is a Great River Energy Water Tower by the high school.
Okay.
Those are the 2 remaining options that will give us the coverage that we need. Granite's just vetting what is actually there.
And that's for all those locations then? in that
Yes,
place. Okay.
it would cover all of the gaps that would exist.
I wonder why they're not looking at the Otsego one. That one seems like it's higher than the St. Michael one, but hard to tell from the ground.
Knowing what the numbers were on that.
That's all over my head, honestly, as to how they determine where it should be.
So, Mr. Chair, should we make a motion on this specifically, or?
We're looking to approve, we need a motion to approve the minutes and the recommendations, then I'll need a separate motion to approve the expenditure not to exceed $70,000 or $60,000
So-
for the movement of the towers and the microwave,
If necessary.
if necessary, and paid out of site improvements.
I did have just a couple comments on the minutes, though. because I know we do this at the county board level, when we use an acronym like ECN or ARMOR, the Allied Radio Maintenance for Emergency Response, the first time it's mentioned, could we put it in parentheses and spell it out? Because there's so many times where, I mean, Seth knows this too. You go to the Emergency Services Board up there, they have about 3 pages of acronyms, and I've been on there for 6 years, and I know 10% of them. You know, so it's, I mean, unless you're using those systems. As a matter of fact, I think the people that use them don't know what they even mean. They know what they do.
Right.
You know, so.
They know what they mean, they just don't know what each letter stands for.
So, but anyway, and then just where it mentions my name and Commissioner Hewsom's, if they could change that instead of Charles Burrell, just Commissioner Burrell, Commissioner Hewsom. Otherwise, to be fair, we're going to say Todd Hoffman said something instead of Captain Hoffman.
Yeah, don't disagree.
Okay.
All right.
Just really sensitive.
So-
I don't know.
I had made the motion to accept the
minutes?
minutes.
Okay,
But-
let's do the minutes here first. We got
Okay,
a second
so-
on the minutes?
Could we do that with those changes then too?
Sure.
To request that
Yeah.
Emergency Communications Network.
Sure.
Yeah. And CAD, yep.
All right. So you seconding that then, Commissioner
Yes, I
Burrell?
will.
All right, so we have a motion and a second, a motion by Commissioner Hewsom, a second by Commissioner Burrell for the approval of the minutes from March 21st. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Second item here now is I'll be looking for a recommendation or a motion to approve the moving and the possible inclusion of the microwave, is it transmitter? It is not to exceed of $70,000 paid for from the Department 100 Site Improvement Fund.
So moved. Okay, I'll second that.
All right, we have a motion by Commissioner Potter, a second by Commissioner Burrell. Any further discussion?
Yes, Mr. Chair. The other part here, it talks about the cities are not up to date, only Cokato is. Is it possible to send a letter out to these cities and townships to remind them? Or have it's been done already?
So discussions were had within the meeting about, as we move forward, potentially having those conversations with the cities of by 2022 or 2024, we need your equipment updated. That's something that will come back to an additional E911 meeting. My expectation is you will see a recommendation come out of that meeting for those letters and that information. Again, once we can kind of get this fire put out with this tower being out, then moving forward with that.
Okay, because
Mr. Chair.
my point with that is give the cities that enough
Yes.
notice, that the heads up of this is coming at them, so they can either budget for it, plan for it, grant for it, whatever they gotta do.
Yes.
So it's just so it doesn't pop up July 31st going, oh, by the
Mr.
way.
Chair. Commissioner Potter,
Commissioner Hewsom has the floor next.
Oh.
I was just going to say, it is in the minutes that
We would-
suggestion was made to send out a letter to these
Okay.
cities. And I didn't specify that, but.
And Mr.
Commissioner
Chair,
Burrell.
Commissioner Potter, we actually paid for that for Cokato, and it was kind of talked about at the meeting that it's a countywide thing, even though the equipment is in their individual fire departments. The talk was to have the county actually pick up the tab on that, if I remember correctly. Yes. Here, come on up.
So the paging stuff, you're correct. We discussed the county kind of does that portion of it because it's for the emergency
Paging.
page-out system. It's for the siren upgrades that they need to do for their sirens. That is what the cities need to update. We'll send them a letter just for the warning sirens.
So the funding for that is the individual fire departments then?
For the warning sirens throughout the
siren.
cities, that's township and city
Got it.
responsibilities. They own their own.
Okay, okay.
My point was with this is if we're upgrading equipment, let them know what we have, so whatever equipment they have to upgrade, they know what they need to match.
Right.
Yeah, because if you don't spell it out, sometimes they'll get confused and they'll say, okay, I'll put 3 guys, and they'll get a bid, oh, this is a good bid, but it doesn't match up with what we need.
Okay, and the paging thing, though, that's where the county would pick it up.
Exactly.
Okay, thanks for clarifying that.
All right, any other further discussion? Hearing none, we have a motion and a second here, so all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. All right, not to exceed $70,000 for site improvement for the microwave transmitter and the moving of the towers is approved.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Was that for the minutes, or was that?
No, that was for,
No.
we did the
The
minutes,
first one
right,
was
that
the
was for
minutes,
the
the second
approval
one
of
was to
the,
proceed.
not to exceed 70,000.
Okay.
Yep.
Good morning, Mr. Chair and Board. Two items for me today. The first one is approval of a joint powers agreement with the BCA for our office to participate in the Minnesota Financial Crimes Task Force. Essentially, we're investigating these crimes that occur in Wright County anyway. Being part of the task force gives us options for extra resources, equipment, software, personnel if need be, and also recouping overtime costs for cases that we investigate that originate or stem from Wright County, up to $50,000. We haven't participated in the program in the past just because of the way it was structured. We had to supply personnel outside of the county, whereas now it's restructured where the personnel stays here in-house. And it's just an agreement that we will assist in other cases that have a Wright County connection if they extend outside of Wright County within the metro area.
I'll make a motion to approve the joint powers agreement with BCA regarding financial crime task force.
I'll second that.
We have a motion by Commissioner Deloitte and a second by Commissioner Hewsome. Any further discussion? Hearing no, this is the resolution for the
No, I
JP.
don't think so.
It's just approval. I thought it's the second item is the resolution.
Yep.
I'm sorry. I'm reading wrong. All right, any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Now it's the resolution for the DNR grant.
And that's just a resolution to accept a grant that we were awarded through the DNR, Federal Boating and Safety Grant. The purchase of 2 2019 personal watercraft and 5 full dive equipment outfits. Basically, this couldn't have come at a better time, to be honest. We were scheduled to replace this equipment this year anyway. So having the grant come through, obviously is a benefit to the county and for our agency. The only thing we have to do is we have to match 25% for the dive equipment, which again, we had already budgeted for.
And Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to adopt the resolution accepting the grant from the DNR.
I'll second it.
We have a motion by Commissioner Potter, a second by Commissioner Dahlheiden.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, Commissioner Dahlheiden?
Just a quick question. I'm assuming they had money left over since it's stating the 2018 State of Minnesota Federal Boating Safety Supplemental Equipment
Exactly correct,
Grant.
Commissioner, yes.
So they had extra money and they're dividing it amongst the counties? Since we're in 2019 now?
Yeah, it's extra money from 2018. How they allocated it, I'm not sure, but we applied and we're going to be awarded, so.
Good.
Any other further discussion? It's a resolution. Commissioner Dahlheiden?
Aye.
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 Thank you, Board.
Thank you.
Auditor Treasurer,
Hey.
Mr. Bob Hevola.
Good morning, Board. I noticed I had ditch items and I got pushed down the agenda. We have a couple housekeeping things. First of all, I want you to approve a conveyance of a tax forfeited parcel to the city of St. Michael. Outlined in blue. It makes sense to convey that to the city of St. Michael. Brian's here. If you have any questions.
Is it a 40 or?
No, it's just this on both sides of it.
Those just little strips?
Just the
Strip.
strips.
Oh, jeez.
Oh, okay, Brian has more update on it, so.
What street is that on?
Cadler.
Cadler.
Kadler. Mr. Chair, Commissioner Deloitte, we're not sure how this one ended up becoming a parcel, but it had the same, those 2 strips of land had the same parcel ID number. We have separated out the western one and assigned a new PID to the eastern strip. The eastern strip will be sold probably at private sale. The city wanted the western strip for possible road right-of-way. I believe there's already a road there, but they may, if they ever have to expand Cadler, they could use this little strip of land.
And there's no chance of that other one on the east becoming a road at some point? How wide is it?
That I don't know. Mr. Chair, and Commissioner Burrell, I don't recall. The entire,
Well, we're giving them to the city, and the city can decide what they want to do with it.
it lists out as almost 3 acres, the 2 strips, so however long, I don't know how long that.
So it's just this one we're asking you
Yeah.
to convey to the city.
Oh, the one on the east is not.
Hey, Bob,
Right.
is that a county road on the south that goes, what road, what street is that there? Which one?
15th Street.
15th. Okay, way down there.
Wonder what lake that is, or swamp?
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Delighten, this is, so the 2 parcels here and here are owned by the state of Minnesota. That's the old Lindenfelser landfill.
Oh, this is up by Lake Wilhelm.
Correct.
Okay.
Wilhelm.
And so the state of Minnesota still owns those parcels. They're doing their, whatever they do after closing a landfill, you know, monitoring things and.
I thought that one up there was like Downs Lake.
I'll make a motion to approve this. No, we did do that already, didn't we?
No?
No,
I'll make a motion to approve tax forfeit property to the city of St. Michael.
I'll second that.
We have a motion by Commissioner Dolan, and a second by Commissioner Hewsome. Any discussion? Hearing none, it's a resolution. Commissioner Hewsome?
Aye.
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 Resolution passes, tax forfeiture parcel to the city of St. Michael. Next, the approval of a resolution conveying tax forfeiture parcel to Wright County for the public road right-of-way.
And what about the Monticello one?
Number
What do
2.
we have?
Yep, this up in by Monticello. You want to cover this one too, Brian?
There's,
Which one are we doing?
The Monticello.
Monticello's 155.
Item number
yeah,
2 was the
okay.
conveyance for the parcel to Wright County.
yeah, they just have it, they had it
Twice,
differently in
yeah,
the packet.
packet, yeah.
Mr. Chair, Bob has the 204 parcel, which is Clearwater Township, up on the screen. And that is being requested by the county highway department. There's a curve there and of course a township road that comes in and for future, possibly, refiguring that intersection, they decided to request this one. The total, no, we're still dealing with 204, I think. Yeah, let's keep 204 up there. Total acreage, it doesn't have it down here. This parcel had been tax forfeit since, or I shouldn't say it had been tax forfeit. It was one where kind of the chain of title fell off the map somehow, and it had been used by a gravel pit at some point or another. As you see, part of it's low, and at any rate, the county highway department has requested that parcel. We did offer it to Clearwater Township. They were not interested.
I'll make a motion to approve the properties for the Wright County Highway Department.
Second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Dolan and a second by Commissioner Potter. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor say, oh, it's a resolution. All right, sorry. Commissioner Dolan?
Aye.
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 Aye. Tax forfeiture parcel approved. Now we're to the city of Monticello for the tax parcel 155.
Mr. Chair, the city of Monticello is requesting this one, and they're indicating it would be used for existing and future public right-of-way. Part of the parcel is part of the cul-de-sac on that street, 95th Street Northeast, and in any event, the city has requested this for their purposes.
I'll make a motion to approve tax forfeit to the city of Monticello.
I'll second that.
All right, we have a motion by Commissioner Dolan and second by Commissioner Hewsome on the transfer of the tax forfeiture parcel to the city of Monticello. Any discussion? Hearing none. Resolution, Commissioner Potter?
Aye.
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 Tax forfeiture approved. Resolution approved. All right. Approval of March revenue expenditure budget report.
For reviewing the March guidelines, there's really nothing to draw your attention to. We're 25% of the way through the year. The one point of interest was the local option sales tax. Again, we're below prorated budget, but we're above where we were last year through March. So indications are that we're going to do well on the collection of the local option sales tax. The caveat there is that local option sales tax is offset by appropriate expenditures. So any gain that we have there is earmarked for those projects. Outside of that, we're trending right on where we were last year. So.
I'll make a motion to approve the March revenue expenditure budget report.
All right, we have a motion by Commissioner Dahlheiden, second by Commissioner Hewsome. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Expenditure report approved. Approval of minutes from the County Ditch 10 public hearing on April 2nd. For a motion on that?
I have the author of those minutes, and I have Matt here if there's further deeper questions. But just to refresh your memory, this is where the public was invited to hear the viewers report. Comments were heard. Mr. Rehnquist agreed to provide staff with the final version viewers report after changes were made from that meeting and after the meetings with the landowners one-on-one on March 28th and 29th. Recommendations from legal staff. The board directed staff to prepare an order of redetermination of benefits and damages for the public drainage system and moved to continue the public hearing to April 30th.
All right.
Mr. Chair, I'll move the minutes from the date from April 2nd.
I'll second it.
All right, we have a motion by Commissioner Hewsome, a second by Commissioner Dahlheiden. Discussion?
Yes.
Commissioner Dahlheiden?
I just want to make sure that we need to do more sooner than later to decide how we're going to fund these things and how long we're going to allow some of the residents to pay out. You know, we need to figure out if it's a $10,000 chime, but Charlie, you said there was one that was, what, 100,000?
For the ditch 10? Two of them over 200,000, if they did the 2 million repair.
Okay, which eventually probably will happen, so we do need to have this discussion to figure out.
Yeah, and-
Mr. Chair, would this be a good discussion for the next workshop? To at least
Yeah,
start?
Well, I don't know, is that a workshop?
Well, it's not
issue
really a
or-
workshop because it's a decision-making thing. It's something that we should have as a drainage committee of the whole.
We could work out the details at a workshop, though.
The idea with the workshop is to know how, so all of us are at the same level of knowledge on what we're trying to accomplish, you know, long before it gets to a meeting, say we're gonna do this, but what are we looking at? How big is the commitment? And what's fair for everybody?
And then do we write a bond to do it, or do we?
Take a bank note,
You know, whatever.
I just want to avoid making big recommendations out of the workshops. Workshops are kind of that 50,000 foot.
That's
I
fine,
agree.
we're not making a recommendation, all we're doing is gathering information.
Yeah,
That's
but this is going to make a recommendation regarding this item. That's the reason I want to kind of avoid putting those in workshops, I'm saying.
Mr.
Yeah.
Chair, I think that this subject is more appropriate for committee of the whole because,
Well,
you know, I
it's more,
agree.
it's more important, or it's more granted towards the drainage authority, which is completely
Right.
different than a
Exactly.
committee of the whole.
Right.
Yep.
Well,
Well,
But it should stand on its
drainage,
own.
is-
Yep.
right.
A drainage committee of the whole.
Yeah, a drainage.
Would you like to set one at this time, or do you guys want to come back at the April 30th meeting and set one?
The thing is, I think the sooner the better, because there's farmers out there that are making decisions whether they're gonna go ahead with a certain project on their property and things like that, and they don't know if they're gonna be able to afford it. They don't know what's going to be offered to them. We've talked, Matt, if you wanted to address that real quick, because I know we've talked to different farmers and say, this is what we're looking at, maybe going 15, 20 years, but there's been nothing, no action on our end.
Right, and we briefly discussed this last, or it was brought up at the Ditch 10 meeting last Wednesday.
Yeah.
So it's certainly something we need to,
The timing is now.
we need to make a decision.
I do want to say there's a couple items, if we're going to set a drainage committee of the whole, there's a couple other items that I want to bring into that one, is the equipment purchases that were approved for this year, and to discuss them, so Matt gets to go ahead on that, and then I'd also like to add in there, possible partnershiping for engineering services for ditch systems as a whole, as an item as well to discuss, so.
And Board, I'll just add one more item to that. We want to discuss how we lend money to the ditch systems when they have negative cash. It kind of coincides with the assessment level.
Yeah.
But also just.
Because that
programs.
ends up with a hit on our audit every year.
Yeah, we
Right.
definitely have some very important decisions to make as a drainage authority.
Mr. Chair, members of the board, yeah, I think with all these topics, it might be a good idea maybe to do one later in the afternoon too, so we have some time to kind of go through all these issues. would be the best. I can kind of start coming up with some dates if you want me to do that.
You guys want to start looking here?
Sure.
Well, they've got to do a lot of groundwork.
I don't want to, we can set it now, because if we don't meet till the 30th, we won't be able to meet till the first week in May. But I'd say if we set it now, we can meet maybe, otherwise, if we don't set it today, we're not going to be able to meet till the 7th, 8th, or 9th of May. If we set it now, we can meet maybe the 3rd, 6th of May. Yeah, that way gives you 2 weeks to kind of start getting the information together.
Would you need that much time, you think?
Well, the one thing I think is important for County Ditch 10 to talk about that funds is I'm having ISG come up with a new repair estimate based off of things that have happened since, I think it was June 2017. You know, we were going off of that $2.3 million estimate. I think a lot of things have changed since then, so I think that would give you guys some go-ahead and how long you should put it out if you have an idea of how much.
More realistic numbers.
So that's where I say maybe you're better off waiting as far as like May 6th to meet? Or do you guys want to go sooner than that?
I think we should be doing it sooner as we can, rather than later.
Okay.
But we have,
6, that's 7W SEDS in the afternoon.
okay.
And Met Council 7W.
Do you want to go like the 29th or the 30th?
So that one's, afternoon's gone for you.
29th, 30th?
25th or 26th?
You guys can meet, I'm gone, that's
Oh, you
the,
are,
yeah, I'm
okay.
gone that week, but you can meet that
We
week.
we don't have a board meeting
Let's
that
do
week, so some
let's do
people
the
can-
30th then, we'll already be here, so.
Well-
No?
I guess I'd prefer the 29th. If we're going to have all these topics,
If it was later in the afternoon, I can make the 29th.
I'm done, I have transportation lines in the afternoon
Okay.
of the 29th.
well,
So if you have it in the
Maybe-
morning, then.
I can do it in the
we should
morning, I can do a, like, 10 a.m.
Yeah, the morning doesn't work for me.
Okay.
how about the
Wednesday-
1st of, how about the 1st of May?
I can do the morning of the 1st.
Afternoon works, because I have the crow in the morning.
2nd?
I'm out the 2nd.
We have,
We're done for-
3rd?
The 3rd I could do, the 3rd is wide open.
3rd
Not in
works.
the morning.
Well, I don't think we usually meet before 8, but, or before 9, but yeah.
3rd works for me.
We have Bertram, but yeah.
Mike?
3rd?
What's a good time?
Friday's
But
fine.
see, me and Mark can't
You
get here
thought
till
an
9:30.
afternoon
but as soon as
meeting
me
would
and
be
Mark can
better?
get here-
Yeah, I think we've kind of been pushing them at like 1, you know, but we could do a
10?
morning one.
10?
I can do, yeah, I'm good with.
Morning works better
Anytime
for me
after
than the
9:30.
afternoon. Okay, 10 o'clock?
10 o'clock.
10 o'clock? All right.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to set the Drainage Authority meeting for May 3rd at 10 a.m.
I'll second that. As soon as I'm done writing it on my calendar. Everybody's quiet. It's like all of a sudden.
All right, we have a
started-
motion by Commissioner Houston, a second
started eating.
by Commissioner Burrell for a Drainage Committee of the Whole on May 3rd at 10 a.m. Any further discussion?
Just to make sure we get all the topics.
Yep.
So, funding, cost proposals,
We have
How
the
do you wanna
approval
call
of the discussion of the approved items for purchase from the drainage
okay,
for this budget year.
The buffer enforcement grant?
Buffer enforcement grant and the expenditure for drone and Mobi-Track and discussion on that. We have the discussion of a possible partnership for engineering services for the drainage system.
okay.
And then there's the,
Bonding or potential
sources.
funding support
For ditch repair.
for ditch
repair
repairs.
funding sources.
Okay.
Then the policy as far as spreading those assessments for individual benefit homeowners.
Anything else we want to add onto this one since it's?
I think that's going to keep us busy all morning.
Yep,
What I was just mentioning to Matt, even if the decision is to move forward with that County Ditch 10 project, there's still time laying between approval and actually coordinating all that repair work to be good. So I think we have time to actually get these answers done in time.
You know, because I think there's, like, I know at least one farmer that's kind of holding off a little bit to, on that holding area, the retention area, to know what kind of things.
You want to break one of those items out and meet
and
sooner on one?
Well, I think Matt and I have been assuring them that the county board is going to do something, whether it's a 10-year, 15, or a 20-year, to put that out, we've been giving them that assurance, and I just want a feel of the board. Am I off base by saying that? I don't want to be.
We're not, I mean, there's no way
not-
we're gonna hold them to a 2, 3, 4, or
Okay.
5 years. I mean, there's just no way we
It's
can
gonna
do
go-
that.
we're
Because the
gonna be-
money's, it's too big
Okay.
of an amount for them to.
I assured him, I said, this board is going to treat you fair, and I'm okay with it.
We're gonna have to go well beyond 5 years on some of these because the amount's
Right.
just too large, so.
Okay.
I was thinking 6 months for.
Well, and the thing is, there are some, I've heard of some ditch on a big repair like this where they've gone out 20 years,
The max is 23 and a half.
23 and a half, so, okay.
Yeah, so we have that option.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I said on some of these, it's a pretty large
It's
bill.
there.
Well,
It's
once we
huge.
get realistic numbers, that's gonna help a lot.
Lot.
too.
It is.
And I do think, though, that County Ditch 10 would set a precedent for some of our other larger ditches, such as JD 15, 33, if something happened. We've never done a repair anywhere near this size, so I think it'd be good to have a
Do you
real,
think by May 3rd we'll have a little bit more information on that going into that meeting, or?
on the repairs for 10?
Yeah.
Yep, yeah, that's what I asked Mark to come up with. He's
Okay.
working on the, obviously, the
good.
pond stuff and bidding that out.
But we need to do out there, though, the side inlets, and there's some things where we can't really cut either, because we can't have water just washing the silt in, and that is happening on some spots out there.
Yep. My thought process on that is, this project has been approved. If it goes forward, it makes it a little bit easier for grant funding, which I'm hoping to get some grant funding for the side inlets. Which
Did
would
we,
save
did
some
we vote
cost.
on that? Setting that, nope, so all right. We have a motion, we have a second, and there's clarity from the admin as to what's the agenda.
I think we've got it.
All right.
It's the high level. We can always follow up with Matt and Bob.
All right, any other further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. All right, ditch committee of the whole for May 3rd at 10 a.m. is approved.
And that was also approved in the minutes too, I believe.
Yes.
It was, okay, yep.
I-
So-
Oh, I was thinking that we already did that. Okay.
We got a
That was a
couple
long
more.
time ago.
All right, now we're going to discuss 3 separate repairs requests for County Ditch 35.
Matt can take care of this.
These are all the ones that are kind of near the Bolton Avenue, correct? That's where most of those
There's
repairs.
space across the ditch system. So we had an informational meeting with landowners on July 30th, 2018 to talk about some of these because there were some landowners that were not happy with the work that had taken place in 2017. So we held an informational meeting to we basically did a rundown of drainage law, how the assessments are spread out, that sort of thing. After that meeting, we decided that we would send notices even for minor repairs or inspections. And in December of 2018, I got a repair request from a landowner asking me to look at a portion of the ditch. With the winter, it wasn't easy to look at it, so we had to kind of wait until the springtime here. And I sent out some notices to notify landowners about that, and I had a lot of people come in, worried about the potential repairs, what it was going to cost, also about who would be overseeing the repair work, if it'd be done by a licensed engineer, and that sort of thing. So I wanted to kind of touch base with this because obviously once that notice was sent out, we received 2 other repair requests. So now it's kind of getting more into a large-scale repair, and the current benefit of rolls is pretty outdated, so it might make sense to order redetermination of benefits first before that moves forward.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
Matt, there was one question on it. It says, who will complete the inspection of CD 35? Well, we have a ditch inspector, so that's kind of a no.
Well, that's kind of a side point because there's kind of a sore subject on that one there. This kind of predates back a couple of years ago. There was, before we had some hard and fast policies as far as repair requests and getting approval of what should be done and somebody overseeing what work should be done. So there was some work done in the past by our drainage inspector that there wasn't any kind of paper trail for the approval on it. And basically, we've now had some an engineer come and look at it, and basically what was done, that we don't have any kind of paper trail to approval on it, isn't functioning in any way. Is that a correct term? It's not functioning at all. It's not doing anything.
Yeah, the berm that might be holding water back essentially on the landowner's property. The intention of the berm was to prevent corn stalks and other debris from getting into
Whose district is that in?
It's mine.
So was it before you were on the board?
Well, it was somewhere between me and Pat is where this work kind of took place. We don't have, this is what precipitated me to create these forms with Matt that basically have signatures and a paper trail as to who approves these repairs, because there was no paper trail prior to this.
We never did before. If Matt wasn't there, but if Bob were to say, you got this repair, and we have a contractor or whatever, it's less than $5,000, just do it, yeah.
See, and that's where the issue came into the fact then, and then when you get to a situation like this, where there was no engineering to it, and the work that was done was basically work that did nothing, they basically charged the landowners, I don't know what the amount was, it was like $3,000? $4,000, yeah, and basically we haven't, now they come out to find out that it's actually doing more damage than good, and we had an engineer look at it and go, yeah, that shouldn't have been done. And
so what, I mean, they cleaned the ditch out.
They put a horseshoe berm in, and basically the horseshoe berm is backing up the water even more into the field.
I didn't know we'd put up berms as a ditch authority.
Yeah,
well, that's exactly the point why this is.
Usually we clean the ditch out.
So that's the reason I'm saying that we're kind of in a situation here where we're still going to have to make some correction orders to this, but there's kind of two parts to this. One, I'm asking that we order a redetermination of benefits on County Ditch 35, and second, that we, as a county, probably through Department 100, make the correction, expend county funds to pay the money. I don't know what the cost was to repair this berm, but we can't charge back the ditch system because the engineers are basically saying that this shouldn't be here, it should have never been done, and I can't charge that back to the benefited landowners. That has to be done on the county's side. So
if there was an error, we need to correct it.
Correct it. So there's two motions there. One, I'm looking for a motion for the county board to expend funds to correct the horseshoe berm, and then the other one to order a redetermination of benefits on County Ditch 35.
I'll make a motion, we do a redetermination of benefits on Ditch 35.
Okay.
And
what you want to do? We got to do
just separate motions.
Separate motions.
Oh, separate motion.
Yep.
Okay. I'll second that.
All right. We have a motion by Commissioner Burrell, a second by Commissioner Dahlhead, any on the order of redetermination of benefits on County Ditch 35.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Who are we going to have do the redetermination?
I had quotes, originally we did a mass quote for all of our remaining ditch systems for H2O reviewers. I can ask Ron Rehnquist to get a kind of an estimate too, if you prefer to have two.
Well, timing, I think, is also an issue. So I would say, yeah, it probably would be benefit the landowners to have a second quote, but also a time frame so that if we choose one that's higher than the other, we have a legitimate reason why we did.
And Mr. Chair, I just want to make a comment on my motion to just go ahead with the redetermination of benefits. In the past, we've had hearings, whether we're going to have a redetermination of benefits. At this point, with the governor's buffer law and all the different things that are coming into effect, I've just come to the realization that we are going to have redetermination of benefits on every one of our ditch systems. That's me personally. I do not know of one yet, and somebody can correct me, where it's been equitably distributed with the benefits. It's not. So we just systematically do them all. I do not need to have a hearing and have a big discussion whether the pros and cons. We're just going to do it and get it over with. So I just want to point out the justification for my motion.
For the records then, so we have a motion by Commissioner Burrell, a second by Commissioner Dahlhead, and then Matt, you'll get just a second number from Ron Rehnquist to kind of see where the numbers come in and compare dollars and time. We can talk about that to see if it makes sense.
Bring that up later.
Yep. Okay. Any other further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Great. Now I'll entertain a motion to expend or approve funds for repairs of ditch 35 for a removal of a horseshoe berm and make corrective actions.
And funding source?
Funding sources, Lee, I'm gonna guess this is kind of uncharted territories, but I have to make right, so I'm not quite sure.
Yeah, I guess if you're hiring a firm to do it, you could probably put it under professional services. I don't know if there's any funds.
We're not really we don't really have county staff. You can't really, I don't think anybody in the Parks Department is going to be able to go and make this correction
No,
for
this
them?
one, you know, it's dealing with a lot of water. I mean, the big sloped-in area in that location where the berm is, I would definitely recommend having an engineer take a look at it as well.
Who did this, who did it originally?
It was done under Mike Young.
No, but who did the work?
He did.
Oh, Mike did the work?
No, he did
Oh, he
it
did?
with Josh Gabrelsic
Oh, that's
of
right.
Consolidated Land Care. To actually remove the berm is not going to be a significant amount of money, but to make sure that it's done properly and that the issues that we were originally trying to fix don't come up again.
And why was the berm, who designed, was that Mike Young that did the?
Did the berm just get made inadvertently with the dirt that they cleaned the ditch from? Is that it?
No, the berm's intention was to prevent the corn stalks and debris from getting into the inlet. That's what the original repair was requested for, that there was a bunch of debris and things coming from either that landowner's property and an adjoining landowner's property that were coming in and clogging the intake. So to try to address that issue, the berm was put in there with the idea that it would block that debris from getting in there. But
So now
now,
we'll take the berm down and then plug up the inlet again.
so yeah, and that's why I think there might be some,
We got to do like a Hickenbottom or something, or find something, a Hickenbottom or,
it would have to be a very large Hickenbottom. I
Bottom.
haven't found one that.
yeah, because it's a lot of water, but.
So we didn't have an engineer design this up to begin with. Darn it, so we can't blame anybody.
That's true.
Well, we can't blame an engineer. We'll blame Matt.
This predates Matt and myself. So this
Well,
is-
I know, that's why we're gonna blame him.
But I think it does stress, and it's, you know, it's kind of a, you know, sometimes an unpopular thing, but, you know, why it's important to have, you know, someone take a look at some of these repairs, even if they're minor repairs in some cases. You know, I'm not a licensed engineer, so I can't really make recommendations on repairs like that.
You know,
I'll-
obviously, in this case, it would have benefited us to do it right in the first place.
But this is the thing though, I don't know. I disagree with you in a way. I see your point, but there's some minor repairs that I don't need to have a $3,000 engineering guy come out when it's you know, an $800 clean this out of here, you know? I mean, I'll take that on now, whatever. I mean, I can go out, you know,
And this is where it kind of gets into the discussion of the committee of the whole of wanting to get a partnership either internally or externally for engineer that basically Matt can use that would be on retainer, or that would be a partnership maybe with Soil and Water, that we can get these systems, an engineer look at it without having to cost money to the drainage system. So that's what the committee of the whole, we're going to have that discussion, because I don't want to keep having these $500 or $1,200 bills to have an engineer look at all these small repairs, but I still think it's important that we mitigate our risk, because there's a lot of things that we don't know with these systems, that because they're in such disrepair, some of them.
And I should probably clarify my comments. I really think it'd be good in systems where they're tiled systems like this one. Maybe open ditch systems aren't as.
If a tree's falling down, I mean, we don't need an engineer to look at it to cut
well,
a
I'm
tree
just
up.
saying, I've okayed several, I mean, maybe even dozens of small repairs like that since I've been on the board, and I've not had any issues. So,
Well, it doesn't sound like this one was a small repair. It was theoretically a small repair, but it ended up being something completely different, because
But
it's
I'm
causing more
saying-
problems.
so this, you know, whatever, Mike came up with the deal and said, okay, this should work. You know, Pat or somebody, you know, must have looked at it and said, yeah, let's give it a try, you know, whatever. And it might be you put an engineer out and to come up with the real, you know, best solution might be a $40,000 whatever. You don't know what they're gonna come up with. So this was the low cost. This will keep the corn stalks out of the drain. And now, so what, now they're saying it's backing water up on somebody's
Well,
property?
the problem is we had an engineer look at it now. We had an engineer look at it, and the engineer says that berm isn't doing anything. So that's the reason,
So it's still plugging up?
it's still plugging up, and
Right.
whether that berm was there, it's doing the same thing. Actually, it's doing more damage than good. And that's the reason I can't say, okay, they already paid to put the berm in. I can't charge them to take it out, because
Yeah,
it
yeah,
shouldn't
no,
have
I
been there in the
got
first place.
that, you know, so. There must have been some farmer buy-in on it, though. I mean, farmer must have agreed, so yeah, that,
Yeah, I think it may be different now when you talk to him. Maybe I obviously wasn't there.
Oh, I said that was a dumb idea all along.
And the other side of it is, I would do want to thank Matt that we have so much better documentation now. That makes it way easier to understand the methodology that was taken when these repairs are done. Now that we actually fill out these repair reports, where before I don't know what that precipitated it, that discussion 3 years ago. So
Okay.
So, where did you find for a source, Lee?
Professional service.
You're gonna have,
The thing is though, Derek, to remove the berm is one thing, we can pay for that. I'm not paying for the engineering firm out of 100 or professional or whatever.
No, I mean, I don't think that necessarily the case to pay. I'm gonna probably, I will say that we have to probably pay the engineering firm because they already spent money that they got no value from. That they paid $4,200 for something that basically they should have never paid $4,200 for. So the only way to make it right is to say, we'll take that $4,200 spent out and we will spend the county funds to find out what should be done in the right way going forward. So that way they got value for their $4,200. Otherwise, they got no value for their $4,200 that they spent. You know what I'm saying? Otherwise, we're charging them $4,200 to move dirt, and then only to take that to move that dirt out. That was a waste of $4,200 for those guys.
Then to say that, you'd pay the engineering firm up to $4,200.
Yeah, exactly. Yep, up to $4,200. So that way they're neutral.
Yeah.
Yep. Which I don't think the engineering is going to be anywhere close to $4,200. I think we're talking like probably less than two. So.
Yeah, and like you said, we've already had a highway engineer go and take a look at it, make some recommendations. We could just go off of those recommendations if you prefer. Doing in that, if you're, working with a hydrologist might be the best. And I think that Soil and Water has a new engineer on staff that could potentially take a look at it.
I'm just thinking through though, how many times, Bob, have we done some work on a ditch and 2 years later it's bad again because we have this silt coming in over here? Well, then are we liable to say that didn't do any good? We wasted our $2,000 that we cleaned it out because we didn't see X, Y, and Z issues. I mean, those things happen, or you.
But then we didn't do it right.
But then there's an engineer, if you did it right, we used an engineer said, don't do that, that didn't do anything, we wouldn't have done that.
Right.
If we'd cleaned something and 2 years later it was bad again,
but
cleaning's, we didn't do something right.
Okay, here.
Cleaning's different than moving dirt.
Yeah, no, here, but let me just run this by you. Okay, the culvert is plugged up with tree branches, it's on a ditch system, it's plugged up with tree branches, backing water up for a mile. Okay, so we say, go out and it's going to cost us $800 to clean the debris out of the culvert and get it going. Okay, so we spend the $800. Now, there's more trees that drop more branches and it plugs up again.
Well,
we didn't do it right.
We're talking a different situation there.
Yeah, that's cleaning out.
We're talking nature. We're talking about something that we
No, that's nature.
You know what it is? We built a berm. The berm wouldn't have naturally formed. We built a berm.
We did something wrong.
Yeah.
Here.
We built a berm where there shouldn't have been a berm. That's,
Yeah, that's the difference.
That's the difference.
And I'm gonna lay money on it, and I don't know because I wasn't out there. But the landowners out there saying, yeah, they'll go ahead and do that.
But even still, if the landowners tell us what they want to do, ultimately it's our responsibility as the drainage authority to make sure that they're not engineers, that we ask an engineer or do our due diligence to make sure that what we're putting into there makes sense.
I have to think this through some, but
I
agree with it. I kind of agree with what we're saying, but I think there's scenarios
just north
out
of
there.
55 between.
Yeah, and I understand where Charlie's coming. Like a repair would be considered tree removal. Do we need to have an engineer oversee tree removal? No. I think there's extenuating circumstances with tiles and stuff like that where even if it's considered a small repair, you might want to have someone, take a look at. But I think we still do that case by case basis. I'd bring it to you, get your opinion on it. If it's in your districts, if it's under that $10,000 threshold, and see if that's something.
So, okay, run another one by you, Mr. Chair.
All right.
So we have a section of tile that's busted all up. We repair the tile, put it back to the depth that it was in, and 2 years later, the frost pushed it up again and busted the tile, and now are we gonna have to say, oh gosh, we can't have you guys pay for that repair because we should have had the whole ditch re-engineered and improved to a deeper depth, you know, because that was put in years ago too shallow. That's why you're having all these problems.
Now, with that there, if we were gonna put new tile in underground, it would be engineered, and basically, the engineer would be warranting that work if it happened within the
So
first 2
even
or
if
3
we're
years.
just repairing a section.
Yep.
Just repairing a section, anytime we have tile, then we have to have an engineer.
Well, in this case, this was not a repair to the physical tile system itself. It was.
No, I got that, but I'm just trying to play out this thing where we could make a repair and it doesn't go right, and then we have to pay the ditch system back. That's really all we're saying here right now, right?
No, because this is even questionable. The work that was done isn't really even considered a repair. To me, it's almost considered an improvement, really. Because there wasn't a berm system there in the first place. Now you put a berm in. Does that really, Matt, you're more of an expert on it than I am. Does that constitute a repair or an improvement?
It doesn't sound like an improvement.
I know it was an improvement, exactly.
I honestly would call it an obstruction, which is
Well, that's
illegal to
exactly
put
what
an
we did, is we
obstruction on a
created an
ditch
obstruction.
system.
But you know what? We make obstructions when we put a side inlet in. The water used to come and flow right into the ditch. We put a berm up there with a side inlet in. Okay, we put an obstruction. I mean, I do not know this. I did not go out and look at this, so I'm kind of shooting from the hip here. But I'm saying that if Mike did it, I know Mike well enough that it had a chance of working. It's like there's nothing else that we can do here that isn't going to cost you $20,000. I can do this for 2 or 3 and give it a try. And that's what went down. I don't want to make Mike look bad here because I know Mike has some good common sense, and he might even said, I'm not sure it's going to work. It has a chance. It might not work.
And I mean,
and those guys are probably saying, yeah, go for it.
But the question is that I don't have a strong, like I said, we don't have any documentation on this from when that repair was made, and that's the reason going forward to these situations where I come up at this point, I'd have a better chance of defending the case to him, but because I don't have any documentation, I can't explain to it who Mike talked to at the time when we put this in, and myself and Matt and Greg Chrysler, we talked with the landowners at our public hearing at it. It was let's just say a contentious meeting at best.
Did you talk to Mike?
I haven't talked to Mike on this one yet.
Oh, that would probably be a good start. Did you?
We do have the repair report that Mike prepared at the time, so Matt has that.
I don't know if you want me to go through the entire repair report.
Let's do it. I mean, what the heck?
Well, how much?
Not the entire repair, but yeah.
I'm just going to read it off because it's going to be kind of hard too.
That sounds good.
I met with landowner Vernie Payne after he called to notify me that surface water was failing to enter the drainage system infrastructure due to the volume of water, as well as the intake commonly being plugged with agricultural debris, usually corn stalks. The area noted as repair 17-006 is just north of 50th Street northwest. The ditch is a closed system at that point, running in a westerly direction. The location noted there is a 24-inch flush intake, which is placed on a cement riser that leads to a closed system below. Localized flooding is occurring in Mr. Payne's field because of the flush intake is often plugged with debris. Within several feet of the intake is the township culvert that crosses under 50th Street. The field south of 50th Street is at a higher elevation, and the water from that field flows through the culvert and into the current intake. To mitigate the localized flooding and crop damage on Mr. Payne's field, the following 2-part repair is recommended. Part 1, remove the current flush-mounted intake, reset concrete rings or other permanent structures on top of the current concrete riser to bring it to ground level. Place an elevated intake on the new riser and secure it. Part 2, build a small earthen horseshoe berm on the north side of 50th Street Northwest. This will extend approximately 20 to 30 feet north of the intake to a point where it will end on both sides of the road and the ditch. So it would go around the intake and meet up with the road. The top of this berm will be slightly lower than the top of the township culvert for its entire length. Part 1 will assist in allowing water to flow even if some debris gets caught in the intake. Part 2 will allow a small bounce in the intake area, giving the water more time to enter the drainage system.
Sounds like solid engineering to me, I don't know.
But it didn't work.
It didn't work. And sometimes things don't work, so.
With this, the biggest thing about this is this is obviously fairly complex, that you're moving a lot of parts to it that you'd probably want to have an engineer look at it, and we didn't do that. And now having an engineer look at it on the back side, and they're like, yes, that is accomplishing nothing, that's bad on our part, and like I said, this predates, this somewhere predates myself, potentially. I don't know when the conversation started in between Mike doing the work. If it's somewhere in there.
Can we hold off on this, because I would like to talk to Mike before I make a vote on this. I'm not opposed to it either. I'm just, and Mike might even say, hey, you know what, we gave it a shot, yeah, it didn't work, whatever.
And I'm not trying to make bad on Mike, don't get me wrong on that. I'm just trying to make sure that we make right by the landowners. I mean, because I'd want to do the same thing if there was a decision made on a ditch down in your area and we didn't foresee it. I mean, I think we have a lot better practices now than we had prior to Matt.
Well, Derek, where I see this going then is we made some really bad, neglectful decisions, not this board, but one in 1991, by not cleaning our ditches out when the Wetland Conservation Act was passed. Every single ditch in our county should have been cleaned that year before August 1st when the law went into effect. So, because that was our obligation, we shall maintain these ditches. Never happened. Now we have wetland things. So, I'm gonna vote for paying the wetland credits to get those ditches working too. So, just so you know.
I mean,
that is a bigger mistake that we made. But I'm not saying we didn't make a mistake on this. I just like to know a little more detail on it.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, Charlie, I'm on the same boat with you, because I'm struggling up in my area, up in ditch 33, because I tell you, I've got a lot of my farmers that they're losing land year after year after year, and it's so cost prohibitive to do it.
Yeah. But on some of these, I think we don't need to drain an entire back to where it was in 1906 or whatever. No. But we do need to get some, might have to buy some credits around the edge or whatever.
They can't continue to lose land. That's the problem right now. If the repair cost is too high and they're continuing every year losing acreage.
Maybe that's something we can talk about at our meeting too. I'll add that one to it, so.
Rut meeting's gonna go a long time.
Yeah.
Can we hold off on this just for a week or so?
I know this is an issue that we want to get done sooner than later, because he wants to get in the field and put plants in there. We wouldn't be able to come back till April 30th.
Okay, that's fine.
So that's the only reason I want to get it, because if we do the work
Derek,
sooner than later.
I'm taking your word for it. I'm gonna go with it then.
So.
Yeah, I don't want to hold up a farmer trying to get his stuff in, so. Okay.
All right, I'm gonna, once again, I'm gonna entertain somebody to give me a motion to be able to move forward with that work.
I think we did, didn't we?
Did we? No.
No, I didn't have.
I'll make a motion.
Motion by Commissioner Dolan,
I'll
second by Commissioner Burrell. I thank you both for helping me with this item. Any other further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Thank you.
It's just such a can of worms, so it really is.
Yeah.
Not this, but everything in this whole.
Well, it's just this discussion.
Wait till we get to the next one. Because now you're dealing with MnDOT.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So yeah, the second item is for one, there's an proposed I-94 road improvement. I'm pretty sure it's going through, but it crosses 3 of our county ditch systems. They emailed me proposing an in-kind replacement, which would simply be replacing all the culverts along 94, along the ditch systems, the same size and at the same elevation. As you know, what commonly happens sometimes is these culverts weren't placed at ditch grade when they were originally constructed. Obviously 94 was put in after a lot of these ditches were put in.
A century after.
Yeah, like that. So you can either approve the in-kind replacement of these culverts, or we could have, in this case, I just have a quote from Houston Engineering, go out and take soil borings upstream and downstream to ensure that the culverts are currently at the proper elevation and are correctly sized.
Now's the time to do it.
That's where my thought is too, because with ditch 36 there, if the elevation isn't right, I think it's imperative that the flow works.
We have that all the time. Now, talk about an engineer or somebody that needs to go out and set these at the right elevation, but we do it as the county too, and on ditch 10 where it crosses County Road 6 and County Road 5, those culverts were not put in at the correct depth when they were replaced.
Yep.
And a lot of times, what's happened, they never were culverts before. It was a bridge, years ago.
Yep.
And then they replaced it with a culvert, but they never had anybody go out and get the ditch elevations and set it correctly. They just kind of guessed.
Just put it where,
They thought it should be. Yeah. Looks good here.
we'll clean it out a little bit here and we'll just.
Well, they might not even clean it out.
Yeah, it's very possible.
That's what,
Because like you said, it was a bridge before, they just set it down.
So the $4,925 would be charged against the 3 systems then?
Yep, it
for
will
the-
really be 2 of them. 36, we did a reestablishment of records, so we already have.
Okay, so we don't have to have 36, that one is already set in place with the right.
Yep. 24 is a big one, Lock Lake. That's where it crosses underneath 94 there. I know the Lock Lake Association does a clean out downstream every year, so that could be an indicator that maybe that culvert isn't correctly sized if they're having high water issues with that, so.
I think at this point it would be, the cost doing it outside of this would be probably exponentially more.
Because, and that's the other thing, not just the depth on this. 94 was never there before. So when they put it in, did they size it right, And
Yep, and I can tell you they're not gonna go back in 5 years and replace it.
No, now is the
Do it
time.
right now. I'll make a motion to hire an engineer to look at the ditches along,
You already got the
county
engineer.
ditches around I-94 improvement project.
We have a motion by Commissioner Deloitte and a second by Commissioner Burrell. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. We got through all of the auditor treasurer's timed items.
Nope,
He
we have the
really,
liquor license.
oh, he does have the petition on item 8, that's right. We need
I'll make a motion to approve the liquor license for Olson's Campground.
is that pending city approval, you're willing to have that caveat, correct?
Yeah,
Okay.
I thought that had gotten approved already.
All right, so we have a motion by Commissioner
City or
Deloitte.
township approval, right?
Stockholm Township.
I'll second that.
So we have a motion by Commissioner Deloitte and a second by Commissioner Potter for the 3-2 Olson Campground liquor license. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed,
Mr. Chair,
same sign.
just for the minutes, Susan, that's in Silver Creek Township.
Silver Creek.
Stockholm.
Silver Creek, okay.
Yes. All right. We already took care of the 911 committee minutes. We're going to try and move along here. We'll keep your minutes fairly short. Now we are at the
whole.
Committee of the Whole on the 11th.
Which is
Mike, if you want to take that one.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Chair. The Committee of the Whole met April 11th, 2019. Commissioners were present along with Sheriff Derringer, Captain Hoffman, Sean Johnson, and Chief Deputy Matt Trakler. The subject matter was the Sheriff's request for additional school resource officers. Sheriff has been contacted by STMA, St. Michael Alville, Rockford, and Buffalo, requesting one additional resource officer for the 2019-2020 school year. And we went into discussion on how the need for this, and I think we've all been well versed on why we need to do this, and talked about the districts paying basically 2/3 of the cost, and we're paying 1/3, but I know there was dispute on charging a starting deputy's wage, and that's not what's going in there, but that was the common practice that we've done all the time, and I don't think the cost is unreasonable for this. I think we owe it to our schools to make sure those kids are safe. We had talked about the funding formula hasn't changed for 20 years, and it's something that'll be on for future talks, but not right at the moment here. And they take nearly 1,000 calls for service, which is quite a bit. It's not the time to change the funding formula right at this point in time. Let's get this moving, and then we can have further discussions on how we want to do that. Make sure all the players are at the table that are going to be affected by this, to make sure that this don't get a big surprise 1 year, so they have a chance to budget for it if there is a budgetary impact to it. And Sheriff Derringer suggests the county budget $40,000 to $45,000 per SRO position. And went through with the resource officer, said the starting salaries of the officers of $25,32, the cost of deputies $68,400 with the benefits, and we have 11.5 SROs right now. Is that the current number?
8.5.
8.5, but this would make it up to 11.5. And so this would be
11.5?
11.5 with these 3 additional.
Oh, we got 3, okay, I was thinking.
Currently
just 2.
8.5, yeah. So I want to make sure I get this. And this is the number that is pretty good. We cover 66 different school buildings and 58 different campuses in the county, and that's quite a number to try to keep track of. There's a national push for SROs in every school building, but we do understand that that's not affordable. With the high school and some of the middle schools are probably your best bang for your buck on getting these. Say we have the issue that some of our school districts are not all within the city or all within the county. We got issues going on there, so there really isn't. It's something I think we owe it to the people to make sure we get this on. The residents of school district, and I have seen just as the students. Going down here, I'm not going to read the whole thing. As they talk about the need for cars, the school districts provide the computer and the desk base, and what we're looking for is cars be 2 or 3 year old, off-lease vehicle or low-mileage vehicle. These are unmarked type vehicles. Going down when the deputies are not at school, they're performing other functions that are vital to the sheriff's operation, which people take vacations, relief factor, which was we've been talking about on many different areas within the sheriff's department there. And it'll help said within the class and comp study was shed a light on the personnel needs of the sheriff's office, which is a good discussion to have now, seeing what's going on. And the recommendation is to approve the sheriff's office request for 3 additional school resource officers and proceed with the hiring. And with that, I'll make a motion to approve the minutes and the recommendation.
The chair will second that with a correction.
I want to make a correction. So I want to change the paragraph where it said Vetch said Derringer is projecting. It should say Vetch is projecting. Take a said Derringer. You don't want to predict how much we're spending on personnel next year, do you, Mr. Sheriff? Maybe you do, but maybe you don't. Okay.
Projecting. Yes, fair enough. I can accept that. Yeah, absolutely.
And just one other comment. I agree that an SRO is beneficial. The only problem is that we need to let the school districts be aware of our actual cost, because there are other school districts that can't afford to do it. So we need to have it more realistic for those school districts that have made the decision to do it, because it has been bond approved by the school districts themselves. So it's not fair to have SROs in schools that are being subsidized by other areas.
Oh, so because you're basically like your Annandales and your Buffaloes, that isn't 100% the county.
Well, that's the idea, is to have don't change nothing now, the here and now, but have further discussions to see, let them all know where the actual costs are and everything else, so you can see where the gap is.
No, I agree.
Discussion to figure out how to fix, because to try to fix everything that we think is unfair from the past, it's just not going to happen right now. You just got to recognize it and then have future discussions on how do we address it.
So you had a motion by Commissioner Potter. Do I have a second?
Yes.
I second.
Oh, second by Commissioner Newsom. Any other further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. All right. Mr. Kelly, for approval of the workshop minutes from the 9th of May, or April, sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We had the workshop with staff representing HHS Department, Attorney's Office, Highway, as well as Administration and Court Services. Quite a few folks in the audience came for specifically the first item on RTCCs, or Regional Transportation Coordinating Councils. Brian Gibson, the APO Executive Director out of St. Cloud, as well as Tom Cruikshank, who's a project manager with WSB, who's working on the project with MnDOT on setting up the RTCC. They were coming to give us a bit of a overview of what MnDOT is working towards, and are anticipating more information to come to the board in the future. The second item was 2 transportation funding resolutions, which are included in today's board agenda later on. Virgil Hawkins presented those, basically talking about funding sources and making sure that the appropriate amounts of funding are provided by the legislature during the session. Third item, we did a brief legislative update, talked mostly about some of the tax bills that impact us most locally and some of the work that's been done. I know Mr. Vetch and Hevola have been down at the Capitol testifying on those things and attending. Last item was construction management contracts. We've worked with Contegrity Group for a number of our facilities recently as we were looking at moving forward with the Tactical Training Center as well as the Government Center. Staff had inquired if we were continuing with Contegrity or if the board desired to go out for an RFP. Following this meeting, I think it was clear that staff was to create an RFP for the construction management of the tactical training facility, but we would retain integrity with the Government Center project. So, summary of the minutes, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
If I might entertain making a change on the transportation funding resolutions on the second paragraph, the second line of the second paragraph, where it says the purpose of the resolution is not to promote an increase to sales tax, but to communicate. I think that my recollection, it was that not increase to gas tax, because I'm not necessarily opposed to it. We have to have transportation funding, whether it comes from general revenue or sales tax. I'm opposed to the gas tax.
I think that's what it was meant to be, gas tax.
So can we change that to
gas tax? Gas tax and not sales tax there.
Yeah,
Yep.
that I would feel more comfortable, because I think that was the discussion.
Yes, I agree.
All right, I just will add that myself and Bob last week did meet with the Deputy Commissioner of the Department of Revenue regarding our Senate file about the time schedule for the state assessed properties. The meeting went very well. We don't quite, Department of Revenue is not quite willing to move their schedule quite as far forward as we'd like, although we're still intending to go forward with our bill and putting some hard and fast dates in the bill. It's moving well in the Senate. In the House, it has kind of got included into it the state pays bill, which is a little bit messy because they're 2 entirely separate issues, and basically the House is wanting to do a study on it before they do anything. But we have good momentum in the Senate, so this could be a potential conference committee item coming out at the end of the session. So, but still very good conversations that we've had, so.
Mr. Chair?
But they did actually create a virtual room for us to get some better notification and better timing. That will come out regardless of how the bill plays out. They actually walked us through how to use it, so it was really good.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
The only thing I have regarding the minutes, I wasn't here, and my name is listed on the minutes, just so that gets corrected.
All right. So with that, look for a motion to approve the minutes from April 9th. Do you want to have, there's not really a recommendation versus the item number 4. Is that going to come back forward at a later date, or we don't have to really approve that formally, do we? Oh, you do have a resolution?
Yeah, the resolutions are on the agenda later.
Okay, sounds good. Okay.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
All right, we have a motion by Commissioner Newsom.
With the changes.
With the changes.
I will agree.
Changes.
I'll second that.
All right, and a second by Commissioner Burrell. Any other further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. All right. Now we'll do the Personnel Committee from April 10th. Commissioner Dahlheiden.
Yeah, the Personnel Committee met on April 10th. The discussion item was Surveyor's 2019 budget position. There was a lot of discussion regarding what he thought was approved and what we thought was approved. So the decision was made to go forward with a committee of the whole regarding the surveyor's position and what classification and actual position we budgeted for compared to what he thought got budgeted for. So that discussion will have to be there. And then the recommendation was a schedule committee of the whole on April 30th, 2019. We didn't have anything on our calendars at that point, so it was just a suggested date.
That works for me, so.
So if you guys would want to look at it. But I would also like to add, if we are going to have a committee of the whole to regard that surveyor's 2019 budget position, to have a discussion about the License Bureau. And
Staffing levels?
yeah, some ways maybe we can help do a few things down there on a temporary basis or something, because you talk about SROs being something that it's very obvious to the public. When they come here and they see the line back down to the, almost down to the bathrooms at times.
So.
I just think we need to look at something going forward.
I think that's a fair discussion. So yeah, that's a license center to the committee of the whole, personnel committee of the whole.
Does the 30th work for everybody?
Yeah, I think, are we going to just go ahead and do that, take that item now?
Yeah, we'll just
Okay.
approve the minute, and then that'd be
Yeah,
part of the
why don't we
recommendation.
do
The next
the
one
minutes,
is-
and then the next item is
the
to
next
schedule
item.
a committee.
So approve the minutes.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
Second?
So we have a motion by Commissioner Dollard and second by Commissioner Houston for the approval of the minutes from April 10th. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
And I'll make a motion to schedule.
April 10th minutes.
To have the committee of the whole regarding the surveyor's request for classified position, and also regarding the DMV.
I will
For
second
what
that.
day?
We have a motion, April 30th.
At
April
11
30th,
a.m.
11 o'clock.
We
Okay.
have a motion by Commissioner Dahlheiden and a second by Commissioner Houston to schedule a committee of the whole personnel for April 30th at 11 a.m. Any other further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. All right. Next would be a transportation funding resolution.
Mr. Chair, I can speak to that. Virgil is unable to attend today, so I'm carrying forward the two resolutions that were discussed at the workshop. The first one is, I believe, one that is AMC is moving forward statewide. So, as discussed at the workshop. Sorry, go ahead.
Mr. Chair, I asked Virgil if he would take the transit part out of that, and he said he would, and it's still in there, from what I can see.
That, Mr. Chair.
All right.
Mr. Chair.
Yes. Oh, sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Commissioner Burrell, the reason why it's tough for him to take that transit part out of it, because that was the AMC platform item that all 87 counties agreed to when they did the platform at the annual meeting for the resolution for funding. I know it didn't say light rail, it just said transit, and rural transit was a big ticket for
But
greater.
we don't have to send that out of Wright County that way. We
Well,
can take transit
do you want to be
out.
part if they, I mean, I think the goal is that AMC wants to say that, you know, what, all 87 counties pass this resolution. That's what their
And that's
goal
the
is.
idea behind it, is all 87 counties have the same resolution, not 87 different resolutions.
Or 86 and only one Wright County
Right.
didn't pass it, that, you know, that would be the story that would probably come.
That's
So,
fine. You
in
can-
our Transportation Committee, Commissioner Burrell, there was a pretty hearty discussion on the light rail aspect of that, and that was to stay out to the dislike of Ramsey County to the most of it. But no, we didn't do the light rail, just the transit, because the transit also includes ports and airports.
It's not, but it's not even an accurate statement. I mean, when you have the transit thing with so much money that they're raising the rate from 85% reimbursement to 90%, that doesn't sound like they're having a budget shortfall. So it's not even an accurate statement in the resolution. You guys can go ahead and vote for it. I will not vote for it with transit in there.
And I believe on this first resolution, it was removed. I do see it in the second resolution relating to Highway 55 in a quick scan. Because I know Virgil was aware of that commentary from the workshop, and I believe had modified the resolution.
It could be an
Yeah, he
error. I don't,
removed
I
it
mean,
from the 55.
I think you still, the gist of the entire resolution would still stand strong even if you remove that line.
He removed it from 55, he just didn't. You just didn't remove it.
I'll make a motion to approve the resolution regarding transportation funding.
I'll second that.
We have a motion by Commissioner Dahlheiden, a second by Commissioner Hewsome.
And that is
for the
what-
approval of the resolution removing the transit funding line
That's including it?
and removing it.
Okay, can
Is that what
we,
you said? That's what
Lee,
Commissioner-
can we vote on a resolution that's not worded correctly in front of us? I was always told we couldn't.
Well, you can modify the language if you feel fit. And again, in reading this first resolution, I'm not seeing word transit.
You're only seeing it on Highway 55.
Where I saw it previous was in the third whereas, the fourth whereas.
Well,
I don't see it now.
Mr. Chair,
This,
Administrator
you're looking
Kelly,
at this one, right?
so I'm looking at the Highway 55 one. That's where I see that it's removed, although they had an extra word "and," but, oh, okay. Never mind. I was looking at the draft ones.
So
I don't,
which one, where does the one show it
So you
without it in?
I don't find
Mine
transit
shows
in
it. I
there.
mean, transit and transit right there. You see one without it?
The one of one, the first one, not the second one, not the Highway 55, it's the CASA Formula One, whereas Minnesota counties maintain 30,000 miles of county state aid. The CASA one is the one that,
Yeah, and I don't see transit in there, do you? I don't either. I mean, and I'm reading it for a second time.
again, that was one where it was contentious. Ramsey County wanted light rail and transit in it, but this was as vanilla as possible coming out of that committee.
So
So the one that we're putting forth right now that Mark made the motion for is resolution, it says page 1 of 1.
Yep. Whereas Minnesota counties maintain 30,742 miles. That's the one we're passing right now. And we don't have to remove transit because it's not included in
Not in
there.
there?
Well, on line 4, it does say it.
We're in 4?
Robust funding for roads, bridges, and transit, but I have,
don't
looks
see
like
what
a
you
red
said.
line through transit.
I think you're on a different page.
Mine doesn't, you're the draft weeks one. So this is
No,
the,
this was in my,
yeah, but you gotta go with the back. This is the final one.
oh,
And Mr. Chair, that was the confusion, because we have a draft resolution, and we have the final resolution.
Final, so this is the final one does not have it in there, so.
oh, okay.
Okay, I was thinking, am I reading wrong? I'm thinking, I've read this thing 3 times now.
I was reading the wrong one.
So,
All right.
this is the one that we're,
All right.
So then it says.
So then
that
you
the
don't
County
need to
Board of
amend that
Commissioners
then.
encourage Minnesota legislature to pass and the governor sign bills that brings adequate funding to the statewide transportation system.
yep.
Are you okay with that, Commissioner Burrell?
Yep.
Okay, so.
And I want to make it clear that this does not say increasing the gas tax, because I think transportation needs to be funded, but I think the gas tax is one of the most unfair taxes that they do, because people that live out my way, that drive 80 to 100 miles a day to work, and driving the old Chevy Caprice and getting 16 miles to the gallon will end up paying a disproportionate amount than somebody who's driving or somebody who's not even driving, somebody who sits in a condo down on the Mississippi riverbanks and,
Well, gas tax does hurt rural Minnesota,
It-
because
it does
people in
hurt
rural Minnesota, people just inherently have to drive more miles.
yeah.
So we have a motion, you're willing to not
get the
modify
one
it
done
then?
first.
We have a second?
Yep.
All right. This is a resolution, Commissioner Potter?
Aye.
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 Aye. All right, resolution passes. Now we're looking for the other resolution, which is the,
I'll make a motion to approve the resolution regarding annual funding gap regarding the expansion of Highway 55.
Second.
So,
motion by Commissioner Dahlheiden, second by Commissioner Potter.
and does that one say transit in it?
Well, I don't know, look at
It's
the
a funding gap for
resolution.
highways, bridges, and
Oh, it's on the
transit.
back side of that one? Yeah, that one says transit on it twice. The first line and the second to the last line.
Keep in mind, Commissioner Burrell, that the Highway 55 spans over a couple counties here. The Hennepin County and Wright County are partners on this 55 coalition. And of course, everybody's needs are different. And also, there's a bus rapid transit in the future plan for going out to Loretto, which will in fact, at some point, help our residents that take 55 into work. It's still in the planning stage, it's still in the future stage. It's nowhere, it's not even, it's at least 10 years out. And unfortunately, when you're we're going on, when I go out to DC and trying to solicit some federal funding or get something, they say, you need to have all these in it to hit the buttons for them to even consider it. I mean, you might not like the word, but it's part of the part and parcel when you're
Mike,
going after money.
I would even vote for rapid transit. I'm just not, I don't want these buses running around empty all day long that we do with Trailblazer, that they do down in the city with, you know, Connect Ride or whatever it is. It's the same thing down there. They're driving around, holding up traffic is all they're doing.
So, at this time, we have a motion, we have a second. Any other further discussion? Hearing none, this is a...
Mr. Chair, I'm going to make a motion to defer this for 1 week.
Well, there is a motion and a second right now at this point.
I'm going to make a motion to table it, though. Can't I do that?
Yeah, you can.
Okay.
Yep.
I'm going to make a motion to table it so that we can get the transit language straightened out.
So at this time, is there anybody want to second Commissioner Burrell's motion to table this item?
I could vote for it if it was worded right.
Once again, is there a second for Commissioner Burrell's motion? One last time, is there a second to Commissioner Burrell's motion to table this item? Hearing none, motion dies for the lack of a second. Existing motion and second is on the floor. Any other further discussion? Hearing none. This is a resolution. Commissioner Daleiden?
Aye.
Aye.
No.
Aye.
Aye. Resolution passes 4-1. All right. Schedule closed session, labor negotiation strategy.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Trying to coordinate dates with all the applicable parties to attend this closed session. 2 dates and times that I had received and will propose before we look at other options. One would be the afternoon of the 25th, which is a Thursday, otherwise the 29th.
I wouldn't be able to do the afternoon of the 25th.
I'm out of town, so the 29th is better for me.
And then we're back to the same thing again,
Yeah.
though, is I can do it the afternoon and Chris can't do the afternoon.
No, I think that was Derek that couldn't do.
I'm free all day on the 29th.
Okay, so preferably later in the afternoon, like maybe even
2:30?
I won't be there on the
That's what it
29th.
was.
How is that night? Can you,
Transportation lines.
even at 3 o'clock you can't do?
Why don't,
St.
how
Paul
about
1
the
to
after?
2:30?
Oh.
There's no way God green earth I'm
Yeah.
gonna get here unless I can use.
Nobody can do the
Vet's
morning?
Private helicopter.
I can't do the morning.
No, you can't do the morning?
I can do the morning.
Morning would be the chance.
How about the afternoon of the 30th?
Well, she only said 2 different dates.
That's what I have confirmed. We could potentially look at the 30th. I'm checking staff availability too to make sure that that would work. It's going to be a tough day. Otherwise, we are probably out into the into May.
Yeah, and I think this is something we need to move forward with so that, so they can continue keeping us on schedule.
Well, that's the same week. I mean, the 1st, 2nd, or 3rd is the same week as the 29th, so.
And if you have to do it the 29th in the afternoon, if I don't have to be there, it'll be fine, because I want to make sure it matches other schedules, because we need.
You want us to meet at-
Sensitive, if you need to do it, do it. I trust my fellow commissioners when they're dealing with this stuff.
Do you want to do 3:30 and then you can maybe come a few minutes late? If we do
could.
3:30, you might be able to make it back here by 4.
I can't guarantee that my meeting will get done at 2:30 though.
So, I mean,
So if you want to do it in the afternoon, do it. If I'm not there, it's not gonna, you guys, like I say, I trust you on this, what you're gonna be discussing, everything else.
Can we do it, do we have to do it that late? If we do it in the afternoon?
I just was gonna go, I'm okay all day,
1 o'clock?
whatever day,
Yeah.
1 o'clock.
Just
we can do
just schedule it.
How about if you did the 25th? I'm the same as Mike. I don't need to be there either, you know, or
Well, Derek.
Mark and me and Mark are gone.
Yeah. so-
okay. Well, I mean, if you did it the morning of the 29th, I don't have to be there. Well, you're gone.
Well, we can do
You
the
won't
20.
make that either,
The
Mike.
29th, you could do the morning of the 29th, but you can't
Morning,
do
but
the.
if you get too late in the morning, I'll be leaving.
So
You have to do like an 8 o'clock. I could do an 8
9
o'clock on the
o'clock.
29th if you want to do right first thing
9
in the
o'clock
morning.
is fine, because I.
You do 8 o'clock in the morning,
No,
Charlie?
I can't do the morning, but
You
I'm the same as Mike, though. If I didn't make it, I'm not, it's
What
not.
time did Spring said was best for them?
29th was open all day,
All day?
I was told,
Okay.
and that was as of last Friday, so.
So should we do it at
Mr.
1:30?
1:30 is perfect, or 1 o'clock, or whatever you want.
Mike can't make
Morning's not
that.
gonna
That's
work?
fine, though.
I can't make it no matter what.
You can't
Eric,
make,
I
you
can't make
it in the
1:30.
morning?
It would have to be later in the day for me.
On the
Oh, might as
29th.
well make it in the morning so Mike can make it.
yeah.
Yeah.
Why don't-
Yeah.
Could be here for a
Mr. Chair,
while. Morning be fine.
I
Okay,
will make a motion to set the closed session regarding labor negotiations for April 29th at 9 a.m.
perfect. We eventually got there.
Second.
All right, we have a motion by Commissioner Hughesum, a second by Commissioner Potter. Any other further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Perfect, okay. All right, first item we're going to discuss, because we talked about, so those of you who are not aware, as of yesterday, the repealer came on in the 19-2 ordinance regarding the RIP, Wright Regional Inspection Program. So the Wright Regional Inspection Program at this time will not be in operation in Wright County on any of the lakes. At this time, Soil and Water is going to transition into what was done in 2016, basically random inspections at ramps throughout the county with basically allocations based on size and traffic flow to the allocation of those funds. And that's how those metrics will be done.
So, Mr. Chair, copy of that letter, is that going to be on our website?
We can get that put onto the website. This is basically the notice
that's a good
back.
idea.
Just so people can see what it is, because there's some floating around the internet, but I'm not sure if it's all the letter, it might be just excerpts.
So this is the letter that we returned back from the DNR regarding the Wright Regional Inspection Program, and basically the response to the changes in the program that we were proposing from 2018 to 2019. Basically, the DNR responded back that they would allow the program to continue in its same capacity, basically not adding any lakes to it and not modifying any of the enforcement, basically through committee discussions, and basically with the repealer, it wasn't found favorable to continue the program at that small capacity, in which case the repealer came yesterday, and now the ordinance is no longer in force. This AIS group is still intending to meet. There will be some more discussions as to where we pivot from here. There's still a lot of hope to get some legislative support to maybe be able to move something forward down the road, but at this time, we're transitioning to have some sort of response to preventing aquatic invasive species in the county on some capacity, but just not in the fashion that it was last year.
Mr. Chair, what I find ironic about the response is essentially in 2013, the DNR had this AIS study, and they looked at regional inspections and found, I mean, their studies showed how cost-effective it would be to have what they called centralized inspection programs, and yet it didn't get implemented. And so we've gone forward and passed this ordinance, in support of that, in support of their findings, and they have found reasons not to let us operate, essentially. The other thing is, the one thing they were not in favor of is to have us train boaters to do self-inspections. I would think that the more people that are educated in learning how to, look for aquatic invasive species on their watercraft, the better. So that's something that we weren't getting any money from the DNR for this, and yet we're wanting to educate boaters so they would be able to bypass going to the regional inspection sites, therefore, saving them the trips. They'd have the education, they'd get the certifications, they'd learn how to do this. So I felt that was ironic.
And I do want to piggyback on that. Having been involved in the small group with the creation of the self-inspection classes, I was I was super excited because I even just going through that process of helping put that together, I learned a lot at that point, and I was amazed that I was like, I got excited because I thought we are really going to put some good information out there, and I'm saddened to see that information now isn't going to happen. I hope we can pivot and find a way to get that work out to the people, and because I feel like that educational tool would make a monumental change.
That's what we all need, you know, people need to know what they're looking for. And certainly, if we're training people to be certified to do that, you know, that's the same as we've got at the regional inspection, or the same as we've got the monitors at the ramps. So it's extremely cost effective.
That was the one thing I thought Derek's idea was so good, was to have that. And I'm wondering if we shouldn't find a way to just fund the training anyway, and see if boaters actually will come in, you know, fishermen will come in and to learn about it, you know. So, I don't know. It'd be worth trying a class anyway.
I would have liked to have gotten the feedback from it, because I really think that the group that was putting it together, and I do want to go out and say Jeff Burns, as a citizen of Wright County, has gone far above and beyond in putting together the information for this class, and I'm saddened that right now it's just kind of put on hold.
And like I said, I would like to see a class sponsored anyway, and just let people come to it for free even.
And I think
just see if the boaters and the fishermen, you know, take them up on it, and because I think there are a lot of people, and that would solidify that thought that they're out there that wanna do the right thing.
And Commissioner Burrell, I'll piggyback off. They had the Clean Drain and Dry program, which was a series of billboards all over the state. That costs a lot of money. It doesn't reach you personally. If you can have a class where people that actually do the boats, you know, off season or whatever, convenient for them to learn about things. The people that attend the class are going to tell their friends that didn't attend the class different things to look for, and that spreading the word better.
Best education they ever did.
Best education.
I think we
versus
should have
billboards.
a Wright County, you get a certificate, you're certified as a self-inspector in Wright County.
You know what, I think, and I'm going to go and bring that to the AIS group, and maybe there's a way we can transition some of those initiative funds to be able to fund this class, and maybe we can run this class.
Yeah,
because I mean, those initiative funds right now at this point are going to get turned back, and maybe we can reapply to use some of those funds to put this class together.
Something. I mean,
That's a good idea.
Like I said, I thought that was the best part of the whole thing.
And if you get it so that you get a good crowd,
then do another one.
And then if you don't, well, then you know.
There seemed to
People
be-
don't have as much interest.
Yep.
There seemed to be very broad interest in this among the boaters
Well,
and anglers.
if there was broad interest when they knew they were gonna have to go to an inspection station, it might be different now. But
It might be, but it'd be worth trying.
yeah, absolutely, I agree.
I think at an interesting time that we have another meeting that was supposed to be almost a half hour ago. Does anybody want to do a quick 1 minute on your advisory updates?
I do need to put something out at the Crow meeting last Wednesday. We did vote to start the process to disband, so I think I prefaced it, or I prepped you all, I should say, a little bit earlier, but it actually we did take a formal vote, and it was unanimous. So Hennepin, Carver County even came out to make the vote. Hennepin was the only one not there, and they just have a teeny sliver, but it has to be unanimous too. So if one of them does not do it, then the option would be for the counties to give their, I think it's 3 or 6 month notice to withdraw. So.
Do you have anything quick?
Yep, I'll just be very brief. The META group met last Wednesday, and it's now, because we're getting away from meth education and drug awareness, it's now mentorship education and drug awareness to include, you know, the opioids and all that. It's less focus on just meth, and we approved a few grants, $500 grants for schools that are doing programs. And yesterday I was excited. I got invited to the round table with the President Trump in Burnsville, and it was a discussion on the economy and tax reforms. And when the president came in, he was kind of, you know, a little subdued because he had been listening to the footage on the fire in Notre Dame Church, so cathedral in Paris, but then he kind of got over that. There was a number of people at the table, and they were business people that talked about the tax reforms and how the economy is growing, and it was a good discussion. He was only there probably 40 minutes or so, but about 350 people approximately. So it's just exciting to be in the room with the President of the United States.
So now that you attended that, do you expect protesters at your door at your house?
Yeah. There were both sides. There were protesters and supporters out with waving their flags and their signs.
At an interesting time, I'm going to pass, so.
Yeah, poor Susan's fingers. Although I do have a question, is that I didn't see anything about a meeting today. There's nothing on our schedule here.
That was on the 4-2 agenda.
Yeah, it was on the consent agenda. It basically updated on spaces from BKV today.
Because normally we always have it listed on the end of the agenda.
Correct, but it's not a committee of the whole. It was just review the design of the area.
Okay.
So, BKV is here to review with different departments today, so we thought it would be good to get the board. We scheduled it all on that same day since they were here anyway. So.
Okay, mine's gonna be quick. Highway 55 Coalition met, and it was about the fly-in that I'll be going to in Washington in June 18th through the 20th. And it'll have to do with the funding of from Arrowhead to Loretto, which is about $34 to $40 million. Seeking it's be eligible for the build grant. It's also Quarters of Commerce if the state actually does something. Although Quarters of Commerce might not score so high because Hennepin County's got so many other projects that are higher ranking than that one. The other thing is to try to go out federally and change the federal infrastructure funding that they've been talking about, because the states, and we're not the only state, but the rest of the states are waiting for the feds to do something before they make a move, and that's part of the gridlock and why it's hard to get something going. More to come on that.
Yeah, good meeting, new partners at the table, so that was a very good meeting.
And I will be, Plymouth came back in the fold, which is big news, because that now gives you an extra congressman that's part of that district. The other thing is the city of Corcoran. I'll be going to that meeting this next week to welcome them in, because I think they want to be at the table too, which helps, because the more the merrier on this. More to come on that.
Awesome. Mr. Kelly, Administrator, do you have anything?
I could fill an hour, but I'll pass for the sake of time.
Quick question.
Yeah.
How are we doing at our IT department head?
Department head recruitment, as of this morning, we had 52 applicants from public sector, private sector, within Minnesota, as well as other states. The posting for the manager also closed. I believe we had 25 applicants, so we'll start reviewing those this
Wonderful.
afternoon.
That's good to hear.
So.
Good to hear.
Very good.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. All right, then with that, we will